like to ask each of you if you have any key takeaways before we enter into the Q&A session. Maybe Rich, we'll start over with you here.
Sure. So here's my one piece of advice for those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I'm not looking at anyone on our panel. There used to be a commercial for Sim's clothing store where the tagline was, "An educated consumer is our best customer." I think that piece of advice applies with equal power and relevance to consumers of complex investigations. If you are in the market for buying investigative services for complex investigations, you should ask how your provider intends to leverage the power of data analytics to make your investigation better and more efficient.
Great. Brandon?
So I'm a little younger than Rich, and so I'll use a G.I. Joe reference from the 70s and 80s.
I was going to say, that's not much better.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. I think knowing that data analytics comes in many forms is a first stepping stone to using data analytics efficiently in investigations. I think it's okay to take a certain thesis that you have or a hypothesis that you have and figure out what data is available and what tools you might be able to bring to bear to analyze that data. And don't let yourself get caught in the constant struggle to manage to compress timeframes. Because putting a bunch of lawyers into a room and having them spend 3 weeks doing document review is still 3 weeks that you're spending analyzing the data inefficiently. So if you took those 3 weeks and you measure twice and cut once using a more informed, better tool set, I think you're going to drive better results.
So I've got two takeaways because I'm a lawyer and we get paid by the word. It's consider your aim and know who's on the other side of the table. So consider the aim is about thinking about what is our goal here. Is the goal to understand what's in the mindset of a particular group of employees? Is the goal to identify a pattern of suspicious activity, be it trading activity or coming and going or digital coming and going, like VPN accesses or some sort of remote access to a network? What are you trying to get at? And the corollary to that, of course, is this something that has just blown up and is a $10 billion problem, and we're going to leave no stone unturned until we get to an answer of what happened? Or is this, the much more regular occurrence of, a whistleblower complaint or some sort of allegation that's lobbed in the media or by some advocacy group, and you're trying to figure out what happened, but you have to work within a budget and you have to provide value. And I think my view certainly is we always are providing value and being considerate of the budget, but there are some cases where clients do in fact say, find out the answer, don't leave any stone unturned. And those are different types of matters that allow you to access more types of data and do more with it. But as to the think about who's on the other side of the table, it's really important, particularly when dealing with a regulator, be it from the SEC, the Department of Justice, when the UK regulators, or any other global regulator, to understand what they know and think about these issues. And frankly, if they don't seem to be getting it, to suggest that they bring in some of their colleagues, because oftentimes the agencies have other staff who are very knowledgeable about this, and that can be effective at explaining what it is you're doing, particularly if what you're trying to do is explain how you're going to deliver results in more of a value way. Now, the regulators, the value being the money spent, is of less concern to them, typically, although not always. They're not immune to those kinds of arguments, but it's more about how quickly can they get answers. And if you can explain that and explain with credibility how it is you're approaching that, and if the person on the other side of the table is not getting it, politely suggest they bring in some other resource that will help them to understand how it is you're going to do better for them in terms of delivering those results of the internal investigation, that can be really helpful.
Okay, great. Wayne?
when Brandon was playing with those little figures, I was applying technology to legal problems. And I think we run a risk of sending the pendulum way to the wrong direction in thinking that, well, now we have artificial intelligence and we're going to take somebody's brain here and divide it into 200 pieces and throw it into machines and processors, and that's going to give us good solutions.
Yeah.
It's not. What we have here is a surge in the amount of data, both the types of data and the quantity of data. And that gives us an opportunity to get at something, ethereal, the truth, in a way that we never had before, if we approach it correctly. And with tools, we can take the salient pieces of information and get them out of this big mass of data. But there's really no substitute for the individual who can see the patterns that the machine can't. Because you can take and you can program a machine to think the way that you think, but that's not good enough. And you can program it to think the way a criminal might think, that also isn't good enough. You need to have something that's capable of allowing for creativity, and that we don't have yet in the machine. And whether we get there or not, it's not the foreseeable future. So there really is, my takeaway from this is you need to get a really high quality investigator who knows how to use all of the different tools that are available for them to use. And then you need to give them the freedom to be able to do it.